The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to hour number 4 of tonight's show. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. It is now, Wednesday, September 28, 2022. And we're coming to you from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. We're coming to you on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and let me see, of course, the X-Zone Broadcast Network. And you can watch the X-Zone TV show on the X-Zone TV channel, which is exclusive to Simul TV on Channel 54. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is SANDE HART, and Sandy is going to be talking to us about, liminalodyssey.com. Hey, Sandy, how are you tonight?
Hi there. I'm terrific, Rob. Thank you for having me.
Well, nice seeing you, Sandy. How are things in California tonight?
Gorgeous. Lovely.
Oh, that's it. Rub it in. It's raining like heck up here. We're getting ready for a hell of a winter. And okay. All right.
We pay for the water. We pay for it.
Hey, Sandy, what is Liminal Odyssey?
Well, liminal is a word I only recently learned a couple of years ago. It means threshold. It means the place between here and there, the place between crisis and dilemma, action and choice, the evolutionary growth spurt we are in, or fact and fiction.
Ooh, now you're talking my language.
Yeah. I love this show. And I was tickled to have this conversation in this space. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. You see, we do something a little different over here than other radio shows. First of all, we must be doing something right because this is our 33rd year. You know, I started it when I was very young. I just look old. And we let our listeners decide what to think. I don't prophesy. I don't preach to them. I don't tell them what to do. I think it's my job as a host to bring on as many interesting people as we can so that they can make up their own mind about what to think, what to believe, and how to go on with their lives. And that's why I invite people like you on to help spread the word that there is more than one way of looking at something. So tell us a little.
Thank you, because it's so timely right now. This is the conversations we have to be having across the board.
Yes, I agree.
Questioning everything.
So tell us a little bit about SANDE HART. Who is SANDE HART?
Well, my claim to fame is I'm a grandmother, mother, daughter, sister, aunt. That's, I'm happy as in that title.
Hold on, I've got to stop you right there. I applaud you for that, because not many people in today's society are so proud to say exactly what you did. And I do that because I'm a grandfather. I'm a great-grandfather. We have 6 children, we have 15 grandchildren, and we have 2 great-grandchildren. So I like the way you think. And I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, anytime. No, that's what really matters, right? That's, they're the boss, that's who I work for. That's who I breathe for. That's everything I've ever done in my adult life has been, with them in mind and the next 7 generations. Besides that, I'm a community builder, focused in the area of interfaith community building. It was the events of 9/11 that sort of woke me up. And I'm actually women's empowerment. I like to think of myself as a repowerment advocate of women. And everything I do for my grandchildren.
It also seems that everything you do is something very positive.
Yeah, well, we all have a choice on what we do, and so make it positive.
Well, you know what? I've always believed that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So who the heck wants to be part of any problem, right?
That's right.
So once again, I'm going to ask you about Liminal Odyssey.
Okay. Yeah. So when I first heard this word liminal, it just opened up a whole new world for me. I really, I wasn't expecting to be blown away by this word. It's a word though that I think everybody should get really comfortable hearing. And it came to me at the same time I was trying to tell this story that I've been trying to tell about this wild experience that I had in 1982 at a No Nukes Rally and Music Festival in California. At the Rose Bowl, amongst 100,000 people, I started a movement. And I've been urged by my friends to tell this story, and I kept putting the book down. I didn't have enough of a story to write. And then I hear this word, liminal, and I start stretching and pulling apart the spaces in between my call to action and what was showing up for me in my world at that moment, and what was I going to do with that? And it manifested into, an entire book. When I was able to really think about what was going on inside of me, suddenly 11 more stories started coming out of me. And, they're my stories, they're real experiences, but they're experiences that I had otherwise discounted as mundane or, kind of interesting, but not really the miracle that they really turned out to be when I started thinking about what was going on there and what was behind the scenes and what was otherwise discounted was really the miracle, the magic that could be seen as the paranormal.
So what does the word liminal mean?
It means threshold.
Threshold.
It literally means threshold. It's actually, architects use that word liberally to describe a staircase or a hallway or a public place, how we're going to move in the place. So it's not really about the space, it's what we do in the space and how we use it.
And I would imagine that is also the state between life and death then.
Oh, yes. It could be any space. It could be a momentary, breath. It could be the space between the in-breath and the exhale. It could be the space between a choice and a decision, or it could be, the span of your lifetime. As a matter of fact, I actually, when I was writing the book, I actually stepped back and looked at the hero's journey, which is Joseph Campbell's work that he evolved from Carl Jung's philosophy, and started looking at all these stages of one's life, and thought, well, maybe that's what I've got going here. Maybe I've got this contemplative template to lay over my book, but it just wasn't enough. And the more I started thinking about it, the more I thought not a linear path for our life, but the zig and the zag, the back and the forth. And it really turned into, this vision I got of the vast darkness of the space in the universe, right? And I got the image of a George Lucas, aircraft flying through the air, and no matter where you looked, up or down, left or right, no matter what, everything looks, like it's the wild frontier, and it's up to us to choose where we go in those spaces. So therefore, therein lies the title of my book, The Liminal Odyssey.
Now this is a very unique perspective on normalize even the paranormal. Can you speak on that, please?
Well, I think we are in an evolutionary growth spurt right now. Futurists, visionaries, thought leaders, quantum scientists, they're all saying, the world is speeding up. The universe is speeding up. And the first quantum revolution was about 100 and something years ago, 110 or 11 years ago, when quantum scientists discovered that the universe was a mental universe. It's not a machine, right? The universe is a mental universe, and that quantum discovery brought us the microprocessor, which has, of course, brought us together tonight, and all the other advantages of technology that we have at our fingertips. And yet, there's now seeing the second a revolution right now that we're able to even see things in a more microscopic way than we ever have before. So there are even more spaces to be explored. And so why it's so important to start changing what we consider fact is because it's time for a new reality. And we don't know where we're going in this evolution, but we know we're on our way. All you have to do is look at all the crisis that's happening around us, the piling on of
Oh my
crisis.
heavens, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's a crazy world out there.
It's crazy and it's wild, and it's an absolutely amazing time to be alive, because we not only have the
Exciting.
responsibility, but the privilege to watch it happen.
So why is it necessary, in your opinion, to get comfortable with this word, especially at this time in human history?
I want everybody to start thinking about that word and start thinking about the moments that they're just passing by in their life, and start looking for the synchronicities, start looking for the messages and things. Start paying attention to those things that, may have seemed normal, but make them paranormal, make them magical. And then think of the things that are considered paranormal and go, okay, maybe that's, let's make that the norm. Because who's to say, we've been duped by patriarchy's charms over about 7,000 years.
Is that all?
Yeah, I'll go there if you like. Yeah, it's yeah.
Listen, Sandy, you and I have to take our first break. I do appreciate you being with us tonight. Great pleasure talking to you. So, Exo Nation, if you'd like to find out more about our guest this hour, the one and only Sandy Hart in California, visit her website, liminalodyssey.com. This is the X Zone. Sandy Hart and I will be back on the other side of this break. Whatever you do, don't go away. And welcome back, everyone. Just a reminder that if you'd like to sign on to Simul TV so that you can watch the X Zone TV channel 724 365, visit www.simultv.com. And the X Zone TV channel is channel 54. That reminds me of that old TV show, Car 54, Where Are You? Well, I'm showing my age again, Sandy. What can I say? Sandy, great being with us. Thank you for being with us tonight. I think the paranormal is only the paranormal because we don't understand what it really is. And once we understand what it is, it's just going to be normal.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And accept it. And accept it as a possibility.
Well, why not? That's what we do with religion. We accept it as a possibility without any question.
Right. Well, I'm all about questioning everything. Question assumptions.
Do you want to know a secret? I'll share it with you in about, Craig, what are we up to now? About 684,000 people listening right now. When I was 13 years old, I asked a lot of questions. I was raised in a family of policemen. You're always asking questions. I learned you weren't supposed to ask questions in church, though. You see, you're supposed to take it on blind faith. Well, I asked the minister, and this is where I'm going to go to hell for sure. If Adam and Eve were the first two people, and then they had Cain and Abel, one brother killed the other brother. God put his mark on the forehead of the brother who killed the other brother. And then he crossed the mountains. He crossed the desert to a town where he married his wife. Where did they come from? So the minister told me to get out, never going to step foot back in the church, called up my mother and said, your son is the spawn of the devil.
Yeah.
For asking questions.
Yeah. I'm really sorry about that.
Oh, I'm not. It taught me how to get it, it just added thickness to my skin. And when I became a police officer myself, I never stopped asking questions.
Good.
And then I became a journalist. And then you ask those questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. So questions are very important. And where does liminal fit into the quest for answers?
Yeah. A lot of times, and I because of all my work with women's empowerment, I know this is a condition of women. We talk ourselves out of asking the questions, because there are two motivating fears in life: love and fear. Motivating factors, I should say, love and fear.
Right.
And it's typically fear that keeps us from asking the questions, especially about religion, especially about something that could be so radical when we find out the answer that it could threaten our security and our safety. And with religion, it's security and safety with our family, our tribe, it could be our very lives. So, I think it's really important to question assumptions, question everything, and transversely, Rob, I was raised Jewish, and we are encouraged to question and argue everything.
And that's what I admire about the Jewish faith. You're encouraged to ask questions. And I grew up in the Jewish part of Montreal, Park Extension. And I loved it when I would be invited to be a guest in the synagogue by my friends' families. And I loved it. The conversations that they'd have afterwards. It was refreshing. You wouldn't see this in the Anglican Church or the Catholicism. God forbid if you ever asked a question in the Catholic Church, you'd end up on a cross somewhere on a hill in the old country. But we need to ask questions. You yourself have discussed some of the unexplainable phenomena that you yourself have had in your book. Can you share a couple with us?
I decided to share a story about an experience that I had at Lake Shrine, which is a retreat center that was founded by the Indian guru Paramahansa Yogananda, who is most notably known for his autobiography of a yogi. And, celebrities, Elvis Presley, George Harrison, made him a little bit more popular than he was in mainstream. At any rate, I was at a silent retreat, and I had one wild experience after another. And, where the first experience that I had there, and mind you, I was tired. I needed a silent retreat. I was having some upheaval in my life. A friend noticed that in me and said, "I'm taking you on this silent retreat." I'm sitting down having dinner in a social environment of the dining hall. There are all these people all around me, and I'm really learning about self-realization, which is the self-realization fellowship that Paramahansa Yogananda founded. And really learning about myself and how social I am, how much I love to talk to people and what have you. But in that moment, when I realized my discomfort, I started really having an internal conversation with Paramahansa Yogananda himself, and which was odd for me, but I didn't question it. And odd for me because meaning it didn't happen before, but it was very comfortable, as if he was right there with me. And pretty much sealed the deal by saying, yes, I'm really here, and I'm really making the commitment to be here for self-realization. I'm going to make the most of this time here. No sooner did I come to that realization, to that full body awareness of that understanding and that agreement, did I hear over the loudspeaker. Now, with the exception of the silence among us and the gong that summoned us to the 3 meals a day, they had light music playing in the social hall, in the dining hall for when we were eating. And no sooner did I just have this make this agreement, this binding agreement, did I hear a song that is only heard, and it's not surprising to me that we just got through talking about the Jewish faith. I heard the song, the Kol Nidre, which is, according to Jewish tradition, a binding agreement. And it's only played once a year at High Holy Days, at Yom Kippur. And by the way, to your Jewish listeners, Shana Tova, we're right in the middle of High Holy Days. And at the end of the new year comes Yom Kippur, this most solemn day where we concretize our commitment to God. And we're essentially written into the book of life for the next year. Well, this song is this haunting, gorgeous melody, and it's best when played on a cello, and it's sung, sometimes it's played in different instruments, but it's only played when I've never heard it in a public arena. You can actually Google it or watch it, listen to it on YouTube. Other than that, it is not performed anywhere because according to Jewish law, it is a binding agreement. It's not a song. I hear it over the radio. Now, mind you, I'm flipping out inside. I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, I'm looking around. Surely if there are any other Jewish people in this room, they will be looking around too. Nobody was looking around. So that was my first experience of this paranormal experience. There's no way that that song would be played on the radio. There's no way that this Indian retreat center, Indian-based retreat center would be playing the Kol Nidre. So that song was sent to me as a binding agreement. The next experience that I had, and I had a plethora of them, that were just unexplainable. So I'm really happy about that, but I'm going to do my best to explain. I've been thinking a lot about mindfulness, and what I had recently learned at the time, recently before this event, learned that thoughts happen not actually in the cell nucleus of our mind, but are in our thoughts and in our body, but outside of the cells, which means we actually control our reality by how we think. So this is how a lot of things can be manifested but you have to be 100% completely committed and practiced in that. And I had been doing that. So I go down to the beach, and they don't encourage you to go outside of the retreat center, but I was less than a mile from, in Santa Monica from the beach. I'm something of a beach blanket guru. I can handle a little walk down to the beach. And I go down to the beach, and I'm having, my time with Grandmother Ocean. And I realize, the lower gates back into the retreat center close, gorgeous big wooden gates. They close at 4 o'clock, 4:30, and it was 4:40. And I'm like, gosh darn it, I'm going to have to walk up this great big hill. It's going to be a drag. I don't want to do it. But wait, I'm going to will the gates to open. I forgot who I was and what I've been practicing. And I walk up to the gates, and it's a very short driveway, not very long at all, probably 20 feet long. And I walk up, and as I'm walking up, it's like, they're going to open. They're going to open. Wow. They're going to open. Now that gate is 3 inches from my nose, and I didn't stop moving forward. It opened for me. Now, monastic drove out. He triggered the gate from the other side. But we can manifest what we make up our mind to manifest. When we're
My wife has a mantra. That is, if you confess it, you will possess it.
I love that. If you believe it, you will see it.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's my girl.
That's we used to have a show on here with Dr. Bernie Beitman called Coincidence, Connecting with Coincidence, and he talked about synchronicities. And when you hear all the different people who have these synchronicities and coincidences in their lives, it's like, holy cow. The people who get into a car and just that moment they're feeling down, or they're thinking somebody, that music comes on that takes them back to another place and time, and all the other different coincidences. And I is this part of the liminal?
Mm-hmm. I'd even let you finish your sentence. Sorry.
It's okay. You also talk about liminal coherence.
Yeah. Well, and I'll share a little bit about liminal coherence, but synchronicities is how spirit talks to us. Synchronicity is how, or some will say God, or that which you cannot explain, speaks to us as in synchronicities. And I call them coincidences, right?
Coincidences.
Okay. Right. And you can cultivate them. And the more I practice what I call now the liminal coherence, which I'll explain, I have synchronicities all day long. And because I make up my mind to find them, it's just about practicing awareness. When you practice awareness and you start connecting dots and you take time, there's the liminality. When you take time, when you notice something, to ask the question, what does this mean? What is this about?
Right.
They'll multiply and they'll start showing up in your life. And it's in the liminal coherence that is how we cultivate synchronicities and ultimately manifest a few other things. Liminal coherence is really a philosophy that I'm developing. It's developed in me. It's disclosed itself to me when I was writing this book. Everything disclosed itself to me because every chapter, like the chapter about being at Lake Shrine, is anchored in a particular philosophy or science or methodology or indigenous wisdom or science. And because that's how I made sense of that particular experience. And so I've got my personal story that's, again, followed by that particular lesson, whether it's reverent listening, the sacred art of listening, or healing generational trauma, cultivating synchronicities, understanding the trust frequency. Oh, my stars. Connie Baxter Marlowe and Andrew Cameron Bailey and the Trust Frequency is a phenomenal book. Connie was my trust frequency editor on the book. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm starting to look at all these lessons and these skills and things that I had learned either from my bookshelf or mostly from the individuals themselves that I've just been blessed, like Connie is a dear friend. And I've spent time with, Gary Zukav and the multisensory perception and his work out of Seat of the Soul and Dance of the Woolly Masters, and Rabbi Terza Firestone on healing generational trauma. So all of these people, I've spent time with Dr. James Doty on neuroscience and learned these things from them personally. So while I did know them, I never really thought about the convergence of them and how they work together and create a cohesiveness. And when you practice them together, they supercharge one another. They create their own super skill. And therein lies the coherence of liminal coherence. And when one of the conditions that comes from practicing liminal coherence is just a radical, increase in synchronicities. You find yourself in a lot more bliss and joy. I've seen a big difference in myself, and my relationships have transformed. But also, I've discovered really what I'm here to do. What is my planetary assignment?
We're going to have a bit of a cliffhanger because I've got to take a break. When we come back, I want to hear about what your mission here on this planet is, or should I say this existence. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Sandy Hart is my very special guest. And if you'd like to find out more about Sandy, visit her website, liminalodyssey.com. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. Don't go. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Sandy Hart is my guest. We'll get back with Sandy in a moment or two. Just a little bit of house cleaning and housework we need to do here. A couple of great shows here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and on Simul TV and the X-Zone TV channel. First of all, my good friend Gwilda Wiyaka. She is at the helm of Mission Evolution. And to find out more about Mission Evolution and Gwilda, visit her website at missionevolution.org. And then Kevin Randall investigates Roswell, UFO crashes, and much more on his show that is broadcast here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and X-Zone TV channel. And that is called A Different Perspective with the one and only Kevin Randall. His website, kevinrandall.blogspot.com. For all the shows that we have here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, one website. All the archives are there. All the shows are there. It doesn't cost you anything because we want you to take advantage of the messages that all our hosts and all our guests want to share with you, because knowledge is power, my friends. Once again, xzbn.net. All right, Sandy Hart is with us. Welcome back, Sandy. Thanks. You were going to tell us what your mission is, what you're here for, what you found out.
I'm here to bring everyone to their divine assignment, to remind everybody of the seed in their pocket. We all are entrusted with the seed that is encoded with its highest potential, just like an acorn. And from an
Really?
acorn could pop up the potential of 10,000 trees. So I want everyone to find their passion project that they're here on this planet for. Where do your passions meet the needs of the world? Therein
Mhm.
lies your calling. That's Aristotle.
So how does one go about finding that?
It's
Because
a
in
process, but it's a,
today's,
sorry?
in today's society, with everything that's going on in the political arena, in the financial arena, the crazy weather patterns that we're seeing, what's going on in Ukraine, Russia, China, the amount of stress that people are under these days. We're just getting rid of COVID, and now we've got another pandemic on its way, according to experts. How do we do it?
Yeah, in the liminal space. We have to take care of ourselves, and we are the ones we've been waiting for, right? To navigate this time. And really, the most that we can do is show up in our divine assignment, show up in our integrity. And when I say integrity, I'm not referring to the moral, judgy word integrity. I'm talking about our wholeness, the integrity of who we are. We are all planted here with a specific skill and task and way of thinking, way of converging. Make sure our words are impeccable. What are we saying? Well, it's manifesting energy. So make sure your words are clean and clear. Make sure you're in your integrity. And if you're not, stop in the spaces and ask why. Why aren't we? Because we contribute to the culture, and culture is nothing more than a collective agreement by all of us. And what I agree to and what you agree to, ultimately, we co-create our culture. And look what our culture is doing to one another right now. Look what our culture has done to this planet. We are doing this in our choices. So we have to stop and go, all right, do I really need another product made out of plastic? Do I really need, is
Exactly.
that really going to make me happy? Not yet, do sound judgy. But, really, what is our personal responsibility and our personal
Mhm.
behavior? And start questioning those things. This is where unpacking some generational trauma and behavior patterns is really healthy too. So it's a mixed bag. There isn't any one answer to that. But for me, what I found was in that liminal coherence, looking at those skills and also skills that you already have, practicing them with intent and practicing them before we need them, practicing so they become part of our operating system, right? And this is what neuroplasticity has taught us from this discovery about 20 years ago, when neuroscientists discovered that we can create a habit over and over again. We do create grooves in our brain with the same repetitive thought that runs over 5 times a day, 25 times a day. We can retrain our brains.
How important is meditation, in
Uh,
your opinion?
Well, it's a very personal experience. It's a
Mhm.
practice. For me, in my opinion, it's essential.
Okay.
It's about checking in. It's a and it's a discipline, right? And it's really, its best benefit is it calms our mind. And our minds right now could really use some
Hmm.
calming down. Because even if you think you got it all together, nobody is we're all connected. So if your next door neighbors are stressed out, you're gonna absorb some of that energy. There's no doubt. And our world is in such a heightened level of anxiety right now. There's
Yeah.
no, you can't spend too much time on the radio or television without hearing about anxiety and mental health issues. We have to be easy on ourselves and easy on others, especially when it looks like they're falling apart.
I think mental health issues today are at its peak, and it's just getting worse. Look at the homeless, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Homeless all over the place, and the majority of the homeless people are suffering from mental health issues. And it seems that, well, I know here where we are, for a fact, in St. Catharines, we have a homeless situation like you would not believe. And when you try and get help for these people, the municipal government passes the buck to the regional government. The regional government passes the buck to the provincial government. And nobody wants to take that word responsibility. Nobody wants to put the money in to help solve the problem because the mental health industry or mental health help, the funds aren't there.
Yeah, I think it's very systemic because if we were to right now put all the money into healthcare, if we don't also support education, if we don't also support environmental conditions, if we're not also addressing the wage gap, if we're not also addressing, our incarceration situation here in the United States in particular, holy smokes. It's systematic. It's all systems are at high alert because they're all failing. And herein lies the sign of this crashing of society where we are the ones we're waiting for. How are we going to show up and navigate this time?
But we know for a fact, Sandy, that all these problems cannot be fixed at one time.
Yeah.
Society, it would be the downfall of society. And that could be a good thing. A reboot.
Yeah. COVID is going, didn't you get it? I sent you to your room. I gave you all a timeout. Yeah, it's a big conversation and it's a full system upheaval. It really is. But if you think about it, look how culture shifts in a couple of decades. Look at how we've accepted, interracial marriages, and look at how we've accepted the slow drip of what we've done to this our environment.
That's a crime
how plastics and bottled water. I mean, when we were kids, and you're just a little bit older than me, only because I read your bio, I know that. We used to be really happy drinking out of that water, out of the garden hose. And I remember thinking, hysterical. It'll be hysterical if somebody tries to sell me a bottle of water. That's absurd. At one time, those things that are happening right now were absurd. Not that long ago. So we could turn the ship around.
I remember a good friend of mine who was a lawyer in Montreal, and he was trying to get people to put money into the what are they? The water tap filters. Mm-hmm. And he says, everybody's going to need one, Rob. I said, what for? Well, the water. Well, the water comes from the water treatment plant, Lauren. So why would we need, Rob, you watch. You mark my words, my friend. Sure enough, all these different type of filters are coming out and they're doing this, that, and the other thing. And then the plastic water bottles. Well, we found out that the water in the water bottles were coming out of the same tap in many places that we were getting the drinking water from. But here you go. It seems that people needed that little bit of, well, this is better than that. Don't worry about the plastic bottle. We'll figure something out about this later on. And look what's happening to our oceans. My God, with plastic. And look what's happening to the landfill sites with plastic. We're killing ourselves and we're killing our planet as we go along.
And what we don't know is how absolutely powerful we really are, because our society is, bows down to the almighty dollar, and the corporations are the ones that are benefiting from all of the destruction that's happening. The pharmaceutical companies, the plastics companies, the corporations But guess what? We feed those corporations with our dollars, with our $1 here and $1 there. Women, listen to me. We make up 85% of the buying decisions in the household. If all the women on the planet right now, if all the women in the United States and Canada right now decided for one day to stop shopping at Walmart, we could shut that corporation down. I'm not suggesting you do that, right? But these statistics were run about 10 or 15 years ago, and it's very true. So that's not going to happen, because then there's the systemic issue of women who can't feed their families unless they go to Walmart.
There you go.
Right? So I'm not suggesting we do that, but just to demonstrate, pay attention to where you're spending your money and who you're feeding and what corporations are, creating the most destruction on our planet.
Sandy,
And
stand by. We've got to take our final break. And when we come back, Exo Nation, we'll wrap up this very interesting and enlightening hour with our guest, Sandy Hart. If you'd like to find out more about Sandy, get a hold of her books. Very simple. LiminalOdyssey.com. Sandy and I will return. Don't go away. Sandy Hart is my guest, www.liminalodyssey.com. First of all, Sandy, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a great pleasure having you here, and I hope that we have the pleasure of having you back on in the near future.
anytime, Rob. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay, super. Thank you for being with us. Now, I just like to go off on two other topics that I know that are very dear to your heart. So before we say goodnight, number one is women's empowerment. Tell us how you get involved with this and what people listening tonight can do to get involved as well.
Well, I came into women's empowerment at the morning of 9/11, where I first learned that these were Muslim terrorists, Islamic terrorists who were, taking down the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think about was, I was getting ready to get my middle school kids, ready for school. I couldn't imagine what Muslim women were doing with their children that day. And I didn't know any Muslim women, just by design. I just didn't. Not by design, but I just didn't. And so I heard gather women, and I found myself in the environment of pulling together women. And it was just an impulse that I had. I was responding to my biological innate imperative as women. And it's really necessary now that women remember our power. When I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the show that we've been duped by patriarchy's charms, I'm not referring to male patriarchy. Patriarchy is a condition of a system of domination. And this all happened when we learned that we could commoditize the earth. And women are closest to the earth, right? And we've been put in our place. We've been told we're not as worthy. We've been told we're not as valuable. We should just stay home and take care of the kids. And what is the most valuable thing on the planet to do right now is to raise the next generation. And so it's really in the vein to repower women, to remind us of who we are. There's no shortage of women's repowerment organizations on the planet right now. You can reach out to me through the website. If you tell me kind of what you're interested in, I'll connect you or invite, make some suggestions where you might want to go to find some support. If you want to get in advocacy, Emily's list. If you want to get in, and leadership, Emily's list. If you want to do interfaith community building, call me, or go to sarahforhope.org. That's our website for our women's group. So it's just really important that women step up and remember who we are. And men have also suffered at the hand of patriarchy. So we honor men and men who support women.
Tell me about interfaith reconciliation.
Yeah. Faith traditions are such a proponent for so much of the fear and problems on our planet today. Mm-hmm. The original separation of us was a separation of nations, and that was founded at the time in religion. And religion is a great motivator for motivation of fear, right?
And control.
You mentioned that, right? And look what the Christian Inquisition did, and to the United States and Canada, especially with the original peoples here. And so I have a tendency to go right into the eye of the storm. So look at, the two major issues on our planet today are women not standing in our power and how faith is tearing us apart, not bringing us together. And especially after 9/11, I found myself in some living room dialogues, and I learned the dialogue process, which is a respectful process. And what I've discovered in interfaith reconciliation is how when you enter the space, when you enter the conversation, or you even just enter the room with the intention to listen with reverence and to know no one's trying to convert you, you basically leave with deeper roots of your own faith tradition. But I have to say that faiths are losing youth by the droves right now. So it's my hope, because there's all faiths agree on the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them have done unto you. Every faith has that rule. It's just said in a little bit different way. And so we forget that. And, like your experience, it's we're losing too much of the highest and deepest value systems that are so beautiful. I mean, it kills me when someone just leaves their faith because of a rigidity. And it's not intended to do that. It's intended to bring us to our highest source, our highest power.
But is it time for the established philosophies, the established religious philosophies, to step aside? Because they haven't grown with the population over the years.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening with or without them making that decision. The fastest growing number of faith identity in North America is none, None. But I think that's because there isn't a box for Wiccan or pagan.
That's right. I agree with you 100%.
A lot of people are returning to what makes sense, right? A relationship to our natural world. Yeah.
Sandy, the time has come when I have to ask you this question. What is it that you would like to share tonight with the listening and viewing audience of the X-Zone Nation? What are your final thoughts?
Slow down.
Words of wisdom.
Slow down to the sound of and the speed of awe and wonder. Have reverence for the mundane, and more miracles will manifest in your life than you can imagine. It's just a matter of slowing down. I call it timefulness.
Sandy, I want to thank you very much for joining in with us. And as I said, I look forward to the next time that you and I meet here in the X-Zone. Good night, Sandy.
Good night. Thank you again.
X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour was Sandy HART. And for more information about Sandy, please visit her website, liminalodyssey.com. Well, that's it for tonight, X-Zone Nation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern, as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking my senior executive producer and my wife and best friend, Laura Rogers, for all her great work and support. Craig Weston, Master Control, Mac Alexander in programming, and each and every one of you listening and watching around the world tonight for being here, for taking time out of your day, your night, no matter where you are, to share what we do here every night, because it's our job. It's my responsibility to share as much information as I can with each and every one of you here in the X-Zone. So until tomorrow night, everyone, always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light. Good night, everyone.